Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Boom Shroom. Today we're going to be talking about just a bunch of random stuff. We were talking about rituals and how they're missing in modern culture. We were talking about Tony Robbins sort of thing where he has everybody get up and roar, and it releases this huge amount of energy in the room where all the other men start roaring, the women start cheering, and it's this like cathartic experience that everybody can participate in. Um, Whereas most of the time you're expected to be quiet, polite, listen to a lecture, listen to a sermon about something instead of active participation, where you can really get something out of it or conversate with the person next to you instead of
Mhm.
sitting quietly, uh, you know waiting for your download of information. Um, but yeah, you watched that video. What are some thoughts and feelings you have on Tony Robbins? What do you think about that guy?
I guess from the very little that I've seen regarding the clip that you showed me, I would think a lot of this connects back to like the these choreos or Actea kind of rituals or other similar, I guess you could call it like semi shamanic rituals that tap into these like animal spirits or like the more primal nature of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the feelings regarding that is, I guess, generally it's kind of like discouraged because I don't know, people are uncomfortable with it, but there's a lot of healing power in it, and that's kind of why the shamans also tap into those energies as well. Similarly, with what I do with the Ulfhednar tradition that I practice myself. So it's like, uh, yeah, that's kind of what brings to mind in me. It's kind of like a part of human nature that's generally not accepted, and I think like it's hugely cathartic because it's about kind of the acceptance of a part of ourselves that's generally in society not accepted, but at the same time also holds all of this transformational power inside of us.
Yeah, it really makes me think of Conan the Barbarian and how in the Snake Temple they want you to empty yourself and they don't want you to speak up. They don't want you to participate. They don't want you talking with the other people in the snake cult. Um, as compared to with Conan and his friends, they speak openly to each other. They joke around. They'll even roar out loud as a joke to fill themselves full of a vitalizing energy rather than emptying themselves and allowing something else to take your place, like a snake cult, like an energy that is only there to devour you. Um, and
Yeah.
I suppose that's sort of a side quest that we're on is seeking out what those rituals could be that do the opposite of emptying you, but instead fill you with confidence, with energy, with a sense of purpose and the ability to see ahead of you to where you can avoid some obstacles, rather than being led around with
Mhm.
by like a shepherd type where instead you become your own navigator, a human being, and you get further away from these
Yeah.
analogies of like a shepherd and his flock, and you get more towards something like, well, what do you as a human being think about this? uh, just bring it
Yeah.
up to that level of like, oh, I'm a person. I'm not a sheep. There's not one dude that's a shepherd as a human being. We can each be our own leaders. That's why I love that story, Conan, so much because that's exactly what it's
Yeah.
about. It's about a group of self-individualized people that fight against the emptying of the human spirit. And
Hmm.
there's got to be a way that we can move forward without, following some crazy guy in a robe up on top of a pyramid or something, or on top of a stage or on top of this, or somebody talking down to you constantly. There's a way out of that, and for some reason humanity has a lot of resistance to that idea. Why do you think there's that sort of fear to want to strike out on your own and blaze your own trail?
I guess in some sense it's I guess the fear of the unknown. I guess in some sense, but also um, I guess it takes courage also to face the one's inner shadow and actually integrate the primal instincts. Because I don't know, like for a very very long time now, I think like for some thousands of years. To some degree, even though like it very much just intensified like the last like 200 500 years, but it's very much like I don't know, like the more primal side of human nature is somehow seen as like bad or something where it's more like how you use it, like if you integrate it. I mean, like for instance, take Conan the Barbarian in the story. It's like he doesn't use it for destructive means. He uses it for like to he actually uses it to do something good with it. And the thing is, similarly, and for ourselves too, I kind of feel that can be the case. And the thing is that it's from this primal energy within ourselves, or inner, I guess, animal, you could call it that we can also tap into the inner power and essence that is within us, that vitality, and can revitalize us. But I kind of also feel like, I guess, it's generally seen as scary. It's like, it's this monstrous, I don't know, wolf or something, or other crap of, kind of monster creature that we fear. Um, but I guess we just don't realize that's within ourselves, and that we can actually, I guess, befriend it, and actually that it can empower us. But I don't know. I guess it boils down into like how we view these things, and like how we relate to it, and I guess also the ideas that go around regarding it. Like if we see it as something to be feared, or if we realize like that it has like potential for like empowerment, but also potential for destructive like stuff too that can happen with it if we don't like have a proper relationship with it.
Yeah, it's a shame that our modern rituals include, oh, you got your driver's license. Oh, you can drink beer now. Um,
Yeah.
uh, or you can go vote, or you can, you know, what? There's not very many, but a lot of the ritual I think has been substituted with video games. Like when I was younger, it was a
Yeah.
big deal if you could get through Rainbow Road on Mario Kart in first place, or you know, uh, beat that one guy in Street Fighter. Like that became the ritual that kids talked about in school. Like if you couldn't do that, I guess you weren't that cool or whatever. But then it split off into so many other things. Like with musical people. Say you were listening to a song, or you
Yeah.
liked a band, and then somebody said, oh, you like Tool? Okay, well, name five other songs that are not Schism or Undertow, and it became like a test. So they were hungry for some test, and they made the most ridiculous tests on each other. Like, oh yeah, name those five songs, otherwise you're not a real fan. Like there was this all other ritual here, and maybe they didn't even realize that, but
Yeah.
that's that need for something, and there wasn't any one thing everybody could point to like, oh, this makes you a really tough guy, or this makes you a really cool chick. It was all this arbitrary, crazy pop culture
Mhm.
stuff uh, that in the end didn't make anybody feel any better. It wasn't really that meaningful, and people moved on from the topic. Uh, Still
Yeah.
not knowing deep down, can I trust you? Do you have your shit together? Are you integrated? How how much can I trust this person? And that was the primary function of those types of rituals back in the day. Is it was a test of your character. It was a test of your spirit, and afterwards everybody could relax around you knowing you had gone through the same things that they had gone through, and they could trust and understand you. I think that's the main part of it, is an understanding. Like in that Tony Robbins video where he's trying to get that guy to roar. He's a little apprehensive at first. You had to break through that sort of well-behaved sheep sort of follow me. He was saying, no, tell us how you feel. Tell us what direction this room is going in. And then he screams and he roars, and then everybody else starts doing it, and it's this cacophony of energy where everybody's fully engaged and everybody fully understands why this guy's doing that. They don't see him as a crazy person. They see him as a human being revitalizing his body, kicking those hormones back into gear. And they know that he's feeling that because they felt that, and that makes them feel it again, and it causes a cascade feedback loop where it happens all over again for everybody when they see the ritual. And I think that is what's so powerful about it, is, I'm feeling what that guy's feeling because I felt that, and I know that this is so good for him and good for everybody. And everybody roars in applause. And it revitalizes the human spirit, and it opens the future back up to something bright.
Yeah, and I think regarding a lot of these rituals too, it's like tapping into just that primal sense of self, and there's this essence of transformation too. Like from a psychological lens, it's these. I guess complex is how they call it. It's the blockages within ourselves. You can see it like that are there that we can overcome in this manner too. By practicing these things, that we can work through these internal blocks and conflicts where we tap into something much deeper within ourselves that allows us to overcome these I guess internal problems, really. What they are. I think that's what Tony Robbins is then, I guess, very much tapping into. And I guess from a Jungian lens, it would be tapping into these primal archetypes, and those are ancient. So yeah, it's very much powerful. And I think personally, I don't know. I kind of feel like that's the kind of thing that we kind of miss for both men and women, because with for instance, the Greek Archetheia, they similarly for women they had something like that with they had the bear for it, where in some rituals they had a lion for men or wolf for men, for instance. Just to give some examples, but it's I feel our rituals regarding maturation and the rituals regarding, in general, have been very much watered down, where we're not tapping into these archetypal layers anymore. It has become very superficial, very empty, and I guess that may be why people are moving on from it so quickly as well, because it doesn't really resonate, not really speak to us anymore in that same way.
No, it doesn't at all. I wonder what would happen if you blended the energies of Jordan Peterson and Tony Robbins into something else, like the deep meaning and also the embodied ritual of feeling these lessons. Because Peterson has a lot of really insightful stuff, and people will sit there for hours and listen to this guy. But what if in between you had people getting up and roaring, and I don't know what women would do. They would do something that is equivalent to them, and everybody would feel reconnected to themselves and connected to the lesson, and leave the stadium with something that they can use, something that they can hold on to. Wim Hof is
Mm.
another great example of this. I think he is engaged in a type of ritual with the breathing where everybody does it together and
Yeah.
they release their trauma, and some people start shaking all the trauma out, or yelling it out, and then when they
Yeah.
do the breathing again, it's not as intense of a or traumatic of an event.
Mm. Yeah, I guess it's kind of about like the guess the knowledge that's there, that those figures like Jordan Peterson might have, but also it's very much about like the real experiential experience, where it becomes very much participatory knowledge or wisdom, where we really connect to ourselves in a more grander way than just through intellectual knowledge, where it's very much like tapping into that primal and deeper sense of self that's there, that's generally normally hidden under layers and layers of fake persona that we pretend to be nice and pretend to be that, and all of that, and it's kind of like yeah, a husk, or like yeah, that kind of has become like a husk of actual real kindness, where you know yeah, I don't know, it's like where I kind of feel like it's also about like being authentic in that sense too, with Tony Robbins and what he's on about. And I kind of feel like similarly with Wim Hof, like with the trauma that can come up, there's a real need for being authentic and not and being real, and not yeah, hiding behind some mask, or like that kind of behavior, like you said, regarding like this kind of sheep-like behavior. Maybe it's the persona, the mask that people wear, but it's kind of like become very limiting and very yeah, a real problem if it becomes too stifling. And I guess um, like he really helps with that, like to break that down, to make it more flexible, because yeah, so people can be more authentically themselves.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point about authenticity. I think that is exactly what it is with them. Um, they're wanting to draw out the authentic selves of people as the priority, rather than
Yeah.
pontificate about all of this highfalutin mythology, psychology, all this and that, because I guess they know a lot of people don't have the, I don't know, desire to want to know about that. They just want to directly get to the heart of the matter. Because it does take a very long time to learn about the history of this, what all
Yeah.
this is. And I'm certain, Tony Robbins and Wim Hof type people know all about it because they're embodying it, they're doing it. But they're doing
Yeah.
it in a way where it's immediately accessible to anybody, anywhere, right here and now. Like Wim Hof is just like, breathe, motherfucker. Just breathe. And Tony Robbins is like, roar. Let's hear your roar. Let's everybody hear it. Like right now. This is what you do. Here's an immediate reaction that you can directly experience and feel, and everybody else in the room can do it with you. It's a center point. It's a, what do you
Yeah.
call it? Like they have laid something out into the room that everybody can gather around, instead of, I guess,
Yeah.
as opposed to Jordan Peterson, it takes you 10 hours to understand what the guy's talking about. Like, it's very deep, it's very important, it has a lot of meaning, but that immediate understanding, that immediate access is not there. It takes a lot longer. And that's interesting because maybe it's
Mm.
dancing around the authentic self. It's dancing around it. Whereas
Mm.
maybe there needs to be a little more jumping into it.
Yeah, it's like it's very much like, we can understand a lot, with our intellect and thinking about it, but when it really comes to it, it's very much experiential. It's about experiencing this connection to the self, to the authentic self that we are. And we cannot do it by thinking about it, because if we just keep thinking about it, we're not actually gonna connect to it. Thinking is not wrong, but if we lose ourselves in thinking about it all the time, then we're gonna lose that. We're gonna miss out on that, in that connection, in an actual sense, because that connection can only be felt, and not be just thought about. It's experiential in nature. It makes me also think what you said about these rituals, where they would have like this Heroes Gamos ritual, where every couple would be at some point at the center of the ritual, and they would be the king and the queen, and everyone eventually at some point had gone through it. Everyone was the king and the queen in the center, in the ritual. And I think that's one of the ancient Greek rituals that I know about regarding that. And I think it's the same thing with with Tony Robinson. It's like everyone can be the dude or the woman in the center who roars or who does the particular thing, and then everyone else does it too, and everyone has that ability, that moment to be in the center, but then they're also there just as the group. So it's kind of like a mutual, I guess. It's a really deeper mutual experience like that.
Yeah, something that everybody shares the experience of, and
Yeah,
everybody can immediately relive that experience when they see a new younger person do it, and it
yeah,
creates the feedback loop necessary to carry it on into the future, where everybody's interested in doing it again, even if they're not the center of it. They get a good feeling, a release, that I think antidepressants and all this pharmaceutical drugs attempts to replace, but
yeah,
there's no competing with the real experience and the hormones and chemicals that are released upon witnessing a deep, meaningful ritual take place, such as somebody roaring into a microphone and feeling empowered, whereas before they felt broken. And you can witness the healing and witness the coalescence of all of those broken pieces coming back together into a whole man.
yeah. And I feel like it's very. I think it's very important regarding that to. Um, yeah, I lost my train of thought. Huh. Um,
It's okay. Turn the train into an airplane and let it fly.
yeah, but I think it's this generally very important, to also know regarding that that's something I learned um, from the shamanic journeys that I've been doing, and that I learned about, is that if you do those journeys, so similarly also when you do those rituals and you repeat them, you strengthen if you had like a very good cathartic moment, and you repeat the ritual, even though if you're not at the center of the ritual this time, it's gonna strengthen that connection to the cathartic moment way back that happened, that help you to get out of this like blockage that you were in. That's kind of like why rituals get repeated, and why it's kind of like important why they do it. It's like in ancient Greece, for instance, in Athens, they with the mystery schools, they did particular rituals every year, where everyone would be coming together every year to do a particular ritual. And it would depend on who is in the center, or or if there even would be a center. But the important thing is that it's like it's repeating that, and it's strengthening that connection to overcome whatever is going on, and to be there together in a community sense.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if that was something you did every Sunday? You know, where everybody would participate and revitalize themselves and then go back out into the world armed with this new knowledge and new understanding of themselves and their community. That's that would be a powerful thing that could strengthen communities to where they wouldn't crumble so easily.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like it comes down also like connecting. I guess could say it with the spiritual or the divine directly instead of just pontificating about it through a book. It being an experiential thing. I guess that's what, for instance, in the Christian mystics, for instance, were on about as well. They were all on about the experiential side of it all, and about actually experiencing the divine. Where dogma and the other weird stuff took over, and they went after these people. But it's just, but I do think it's something very important regarding that these rituals. It's like it's similarly, if you think about it, yeah, and it's always been very important to human nature in general. Like no matter what, like spiritual or yeah, whatever background you're coming from, like ritual within human nature always has been playing a central role to connect to the deeper essence of who we truly are.
Right. It is. I think it's an important thing, and I'm very interested in exploring this topic here further. Like actually finding some rituals or making some up that would be
Yeah.
handy in integrating some of these complicated lessons. From these very smart intellectual people, yet they're kind of dropping the ball on the actual integration and embodiment of these lessons. We can sit around and talk about them all day, but I think the rubber really meets the road when you get up. You can roar about it. You can sing a song about it. You can
Yeah.
breathe about it. You can dance about it, and share it with everybody in a community. And everybody can participate in it instead of everybody sitting down, being quiet, listening to one or two people speak, and then everybody quietly leave the room. It's a little anemic. It's not enough for us. We need more.
Yeah.
We need both. We need an intellectual conversation along with this
Yeah.
cathartic release of our trauma and our ability to heal together in a very loud way. It needs to be loud, bright, exciting, and energetic.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like what I've been trying in that sense in the Fox Den that I've created, with the Moment podcast and all these things, like kind of what I've been working towards, like or like to try to lay the foundation for that, where where people can come together and talk about these things in a more, like, I guess, intellectual way, but also, yeah, to try to get to the point where people can start doing these things, these rituals. Even though, like, I've been personally doing a lot of these things by myself alone.
Yeah.
Sometimes with like some people that are actually here, but I guess it boils down to actually finding like the people locally to actually do it, because a lot of things nowadays are online and people are from all over the place.
Yeah.
I guess that's a big part regarding that too, with these rituals, to I guess to start to find that. But I guess that's that's something to think about too. But I do think there's a lot of power there in these rituals, and to bring that back, and to have these discussions going on, to do these rituals, but also to have like like a support circle where you can just talk about things in an authentic manner too. It's like that's as important. Like I feel like if we work on these, it's kind of like coming together. I just realized, like, the intellectual sphere then you have the emotional with the support circle, kind of such an idea, and then you have like the primal, with the rituals, with the instinctual. It's kind of all three coming together, and it's just realized that. And that's kind of the whole thing. That's like heaven and earth coming together. It's the instinctual and the intellectual. It's the passionate force and the spiritual force coming together and meeting. It's to meet on top of the mountain.
Right. Yeah, the heart and the mind, the full integration of the body as it is, instead of the mind rebelling against the heart, and vice versa. It's there's a place there, and I haven't seen that place yet, but maybe we can play a hand in making that something a reality, because there's a sore lack of it in culture. You have one or the other. You can either be on the side of the mind or you can be on the side of the heart, and there needs to be a little overlap there, because that's where some answers are, and that's where the track laid to the future is.
Oh, I think so too. I think so too. It's where these two things meet. I mean, if you think about it too, like symbolically speaking, it's almost like you have the like with Earth too, like in the solar system, you have the Goldilocks zone, and you have that what's too hot and that what's too cold.
Right.
And then in between, right there in between, where these two things meet, there you have this section that's just right.
Just right. Yeah, we would not be here without it.
Band.
Yes.
This very narrow band, and kind of, and that's where life is. And I kind of feel like it's the same thing with this idea with the narrow path too, like that for instance Jesus talks about. It's like it's the same idea. It's this very narrow band where life happens.
The razor's edge.
And the thing, it's exactly the razor's edge, and it's kind of like about finding our way there to align to that, to align to this way, to the way. Where life is, where life dances, and we're not like dancing around it. We're not dancing around in the place that's either too hot or too cold. We're right there in the middle. So I mean, thinking about it, we're right there, kind of like on Earth, and I kind of feel like, that's kind of like a whole miracle in of itself too.
Absolutely, yeah. We're dancing on the razor's edge, and that's the only way that we're alive.
Very much so.
And these rituals can do a lot to bring that sort of energy back of dancing on the razor's edge in between the heart and the mind, to open up a stable future for us where it's not so shaky and confusing and everybody's anxious and alone and isolated. That's the real problem. The dance is over. People are not dancing. They're either in the heart, super emotional, or in the mind, super analytical and cold. And these two sides are just slugging it out on the internet. And there seems to be no end in sight. So, something definitely needs to be brought up in a parallel fashion as an alternative choice. Where people can jump off those crazy trains onto something maybe a little better, a little more stable, that makes some sense.
Oh yeah, but I kind of feel like the rituals also in the ancient sense would bring people together, so you would have that as well, and that would create community. Everyone went through it, that kind of thing. So it by its nature creates community. It's similarly with like that video I had from like Ninguta, China, with these shamans that they were doing these like ceremonies together, where they have this like ritual where they offer the food and then they eat it and they consume the food and they have this feast together, and they do this like every year as the whole community. It's the same. It's kind of like the same idea. It's just bringing together of the community in that way again.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like. But I feel like a lot of people are very much, missing. And, I guess it's also about finding that balance between, I guess, the individual and I guess the community and the whole, that there's still breathing space for the individual, but as much also, that there's space for this connection as well.
Yeah, for the community and the shared experiences where we can push the future forward, instead of a disconnect. Like, say you see somebody roaring and you just think, that's a crazy person, I need to get away from them, as compared to you roaring with them and everybody cheering. That pushes
Yeah.
everything forward. That's the missing part, is we're so isolated that when we see somebody do something meaningful, we think it's crazy.
Yeah, and I guess it's just maybe also like I guess it's maybe part due to the isolation that like everyone is kind of doing their own thing, which is not it's not really bad, but I guess there's just no shared I guess like language anymore in a symbolic sense. I kind of also feel like it ties into maybe that we a lot of people have lost touch with like the symbolic language,
Yeah.
or like at least a shared one that we understand, like that we're starting to get to like this understanding of like I don't know, I guess like what myths used to do.
Right.
Like, you know, they used to talk about these eternal patterns that of human nature and of the world itself. I guess, you know, they brought people together in a kind of shared framework, and I guess that's kind of what we lost. That
Yeah.
kind of yeah, this mutual language.
Well, we got to try and find one and run with it, I guess, or create a new one with everything blended together. That, I guess, that would be easier for people to agree on, since we all live on the internet. But you know, I hate to cut this short, but I gotta head out and go to a birthday party. But I wanted to get on here and do something at least, because we were planning on doing something. But maybe we'll work that particular project out later and do a podcast on that specifically. But yeah. If you have anything else you want to add before I end the stream, go for it, man.
No, not really. I don't really have anything else to add regarding that. Really, no, not really.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of that.
Right on, man.
Yeah,
Well, we
good.
did kind of a short one, so maybe some people will want to check that out. I know we usually do big old 3.5 hour long ones, but which I love doing those. I love doing those, but yeah, I gotta cut this one short today. But yeah, if anybody has any comments or questions, post them in the chat or in the comments, and I'll read them, and we can address them in the next video. Or you can come join us in Discord. You have a wonderful Discord room, the Fox Den, where there's a lot of sane, kind people that are able to explore topics with nobody flying off the handle. And that is certainly a diamond in the rough these days on the internet, with all the craziness going on. But anyway, thanks for listening, everybody, and yeah, join us next time, and take it easy.